The second type of camera in After Effects is called the two-node camera. Let's quickly play this scene to see what we have. So there are no cameras in this scene, so we are just seeing this from the active camera. Let me just go and create a camera quickly. So if I go Layer, New, Camera. Instead of a one-node camera, let's have a look at what the two-node camera does. So I'm just going to go turn this into two nodes and then press OK. On the face of it, it looks identical. It just creates a camera and our focal length has changed. That's why the little jump was there in the first place. But if I now go and open the camera up, inside the transform controls, I now have this new thing called point of interest. Now what this is if I switch my view to the 4 views, and let me change my active camera here on the top right to the top view. And this is set to left, that's great, and this is custom view. If you look at the left view actually, as well as having position, in this case let's say the Y position, we also have this anchor point of the camera. That's called the point of interest. This is where the camera is looking at all the time. For example, if I move the camera up and down, you see that the camera's position is changing. Also the position of the point of interest is changing. And you can see that's what's happening here as well, as I lift this up and down. The two values are changing at the same time. But if I change the position of the camera here, rather than clicking on the arrows here, if I click on these buttons here and then move the numbers around, you see the camera is now ducking down, but it still is looking up to the point of interest. But I can do the opposite. I can move the point of interest, this point here, on top of the words After Effects here, and regardless of where the camera moves after that point, it will always be pointing at the words After Effects. So if I now go and click and then drag this manually down towards here, and instead of moving the camera with these arrows, because remember that will move the point of interest as well, if I now just go and move the position of the camera manually by using the values here, you see the camera is rotating around, but it's always looking at the words After Effects in the center. If I lift the camera up, you see the words After Effects are always in the center. I can push the camera back on the Z space. As that's happening, and because we're not changing the position of the point of interest, the camera is always looking at that point. I can now send the camera all the way across on the Z plane. Have a look what happens now. So if I go to the position Z, I can push this towards right. You see After Effects is always in the center of my view. And it switches there, but After Effects stays in the center of the view. And that's exactly what point of interest does. It lets you set one point in space so that the camera can always look at that point. And of course that point itself can be animated. So for example, if I want the camera to stay static, but I want this point of interest to start moving, so the head of the camera will follow that point of interest, that's very easy to do. I can go and keyframe the point of interest and then just animate its Z position, let's say like that. And you see now the point of interest is changing to go on top of the word Digidemi, and that's exactly where the camera is pointing at now, to the word Digidemi.